So I'm often amazed at how certain things in politics appear to be Rorschach tests. Like, people could look at the same thing and just have totally different conclusions, right? And without fail, with these Rorschach tests, what you find is conservatives are always wrong. The left is right, and conservatives are always wrong. So here's Josh Hawley, and he is a big Trump ball coddler, one of the worst. And he's at this committee hearing. He's talking to a law professor, and he thinks he has a debate-ending gotcha. Just a drop-the-mic moment, let me walk out, flawless victory, Mortal Kombat style. But he ends up hitting a brick wall while trying to make this point. Watch this. Here we go.
And let's see the chart, the Trump chart, which was done really only once Trump came into office for the first time. You don't think this is a little bit anomalous? You don't think that's a little bit strange?
A very plausible.
So that says, by the way, for everybody just listening, nationwide injunctions against recent presidents. So this is when the president does something, there's a lawsuit over it, and a lower court takes a look at it and says, you know what, there's merit in this. I'm slapping down the policy that the president did, right? That's what this is. And Trump has 64 nationwide injunctions. Bush had 6, Obama had 12, Biden had 14. Okay? Ready? Wait for it. Here we go.
Once Trump came into office for the first time. You don't think this is a little bit anomalous? You don't think that's a little bit strange?
A very plausible explanation, Senator, you have to consider is that he is engaged in much more lawless activity than other presidents, right?
You don't think...
She just said it. That's exactly right. Like, no other words even need to be said. Like, you haven't considered that, like, not all presidents are created equal, that their actions aren't always equal, that it's possible for one president to just break the law way more often than other presidents. That didn't occur to you? I mean, that's literally Occam's razor in this scenario. And by the way, it's exactly right. When you have a White House that is saying, round up innocent people and send them to a slave labor concentration camp in El Salvador, and they sent 228 people there, well, right off the bat, that should be 228 injunctions that you can't, even if it's an American citizen, you can't just casually send them somewhere overseas. That's not legal. That's not constitutional. But he did it just like it was nothing. And they even admitted, oh, Kilmar, yeah, that was an administrative error. We didn't mean to do that. And then when that was called out, they go, well, we're going to double down. Doubling down on what? You already knew it was wrong. You already admitted it was wrong. The guy's got no criminal record. What the fuck are you talking about? Andres, the 19-year-old gay Venezuelan makeup artist who was sent to CCOT. This poor gay kid being sent to CCOT, and he didn't do anything wrong. He's got no criminal record. They say up to 90% of them have literally no criminal record whatsoever. Yeah, when you do stuff like that, the correct reaction is the courts to be like, well, you're not abiding by the law. You're not abiding by the Constitution. Of course, we're going to strike this down. When you have Elon Musk usurping the power of Congress and the president, when you violate the Impoundment Control Act on a weekly basis, and you, for example, destroy the Department of Education on a whim, can't do that. Destroy the NIH and pediatric cancer research on a whim, can't do that. Destroy air traffic controllers on a whim, can't do that. Destroy FEMA on a whim, can't do it. So the real scandal here is that the injunctions aren't already in the fucking thousands. Because everything I've seen this regime do, the overwhelming majority of this stuff is wildly illegal, and obviously so, where it takes, like, the most bare minimum basic understanding of the Constitution and law in this country to come to that conclusion, which, by the way, that is why it's a lot of Republican judges who are also saying the same thing. It was a Trump judge in Texas that struck down the Alien Enemies Act. And he was brutal in his wording, too, because he's like, this isn't anywhere near what the law is for. The Alien Enemies Act was only invoked during literal wartime. We're not at war. And then you invoke it for Tren de Aragua. Okay, well, even if I grant you that you can go to war with Tren de Aragua, which is not really a thing, the people you're sending are not in Tren de Aragua. Your arguments fall apart under the most minimal amount of scrutiny, but it's like falls apart on multiple different levels of analysis. It's honestly humiliating. It's embarrassing to watch it. It's embarrassing. And so, yeah, the real scandal here is that the number should be way higher. That's the real scandal. And I love this law professor. What a devastating, just elbow from the top rope. Here we go. Let's keep going.
You don't think that's a little bit
strange?
A
very plausible explanation, Senator, you have to consider is that he is engaged in much more lawless activity than other presidents, right?
You don't think this was never used before the 1960s, and suddenly Democrat judges decide we love the nationwide injunction, and then when Biden comes to office, no, actually.
It's Republican appointees as well, Senator. And
yeah, what a lie. You think you're just going to get away with that lie? All these Democrat judges, a lot of them are Republicans. Oh my God. He's such a hack.
And the 1960s is where some scholars locate the beginning of this.
Can you identify one before then?
Mila Sahoni, who's another scholar of universal injunction, suggests 1913 is actually the first, and others in the 20s.
So in other words, you're wrong on those facts too. They're like, this was never done until the 1960s. She's like, actually, no, some scholars say 1913 or 1920s, because I know about this and you don't. You're just a fraud.
The Republic endured for 150 years before there was a nationwide injunction.
Well, the federal government was doing a lot less until 100 years ago. So there's many things that have changed in the last 100 or the last 50 years.
So long as it is a Democrat president in office, then we should have no nationwide injunctions. If it's a Republican president, then this is absolutely fine, warranted, and called for. How can our system of law survive on those principles, Professor?
How can our system of laws survive on your notion that Trump is basically a king, he's an emperor, anything he does is by definition okay, they don't even have to go through Congress, he could just do whatever the hell he wants? You're the one that's a threat to rule of law and order, and it is so obvious to anybody who's paying attention. And by the way, yeah, I'll say it, oftentimes a Democratic president will try to do something, they do have the legal authority to do it, and the courts will slap it down. And in that instance, yeah, the courts are wrong, and the Democrat is right. Because the plain face reading of the law says the Democrat can do that, and they slap it down anyway, right? So there are instances where I would criticize the courts, and I would say that doesn't make any sense. But under Trump, everything he's doing is obviously illegal, and when the courts say that, they're right. So yeah, the courts are oftentimes incorrect under Democratic administrations, and they're oftentimes correct under Republican administrations. I said it. Because you have to actually analyze these things on a case-by-case basis and come to the right conclusion, and that is the right conclusion. When they tried to slap down Biden's reduction of student loan debt, the courts were wrong. They were lying about what was acceptable under the law. They were wrong. Now, under Trump, when they say, hey, you can't just take away due process, they are right to say that. Jesus Christ, man. What the hell? God, I can't. The ability of Republican politicians to act like this is just a normal Republican presidency and you could just go to bat and go, full speed ahead trying to defend it is like, you are going to look so embarrassing and disgusting in the history books. And they don't know that. They don't see that. It's just, they're basically fucking goose-stepping all over the place and zig-heiling all over the place. And they feel like arrogant about how right they are. It's really, really a sight to behold. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.